thank you for coming today. I took advantage because Fellyph, we're going to talk in another conference in 2 days. So I told him, you must come here and talk about it. So thank you for coming, and let's hear your talk.
So thanks everyone. I knew there was a holiday yesterday, so everyone's kind of.
Please go.
I will go back there.
Yes, for the live stream.
The live stream. It's a bit hard because summer is like Portugal is the same. I came from Portugal to here after 12 hours flight because it wasn't a good one. But today we're gonna talk about will be an intro about like machine learning, AI, and also I will talk about TensorFlow. It's a leap that I have done, and like the interesting thing that part of that presentation I did in Thessaloniki in 2019.
Whoa.
And that was the time. That's why I have this. This was like the year that I created that presentation, but I did that presentation the first time at the WordCamp Thessaloniki and just to show that like so many like the most part of that presentation already exists like 2 years ago. So it's nothing new. Like we have the hype now that everyone's like crazy about. Oh my gosh, AI is everywhere. But most of those things exist for a while. Like it's not like something new. The only thing that became popular became the public visibility. Like people are seeing more things, and also we find like useful solutions that, for example, ChatGPT. Everyone talk about ChatGPT, but natural language is not something new. That's like it's have been there for a while. But just to share a little bit about my, I don't know, stop now. I would just forget about that. My handle is for 5 minutes, Fellyph. Everywhere we're gonna find Fellyph. I'm originally from Brazil. There's not a normal name in Brazil. It's my father just tricked me with that name. But the good thing that I can use all the users like everywhere, like GitHub is just Fellyph. and you can find me, search Fellyph Cintra. So, and for today, I just want to do a special thanks for Jason Mayes. Jason Mayes is the head of AI and TensorFlow. So part of that presentation, he sent some examples as well. I just sent my slides, and like we kind of have a collaboration. And he has an amazing course as well on Tensorflow.js on YouTube, and his handle is like Jason Mayes. If you wanna follow me as well, it's a super cool guy. He's available on LinkedIn. Anytime that you ask him, he will like be answering, interact. I think probably he interact in our posts as well. And but today will be like an introduction about artificial intelligence. And first, like when you think about like artificial intelligence, we think that is like something really like critical or that are like out of our reality. But the thing is, when we take a picture like that, that's Lagos, the place that I live in now. When you take a picture like that, you just like put like no filter. Like I didn't put any filter. Like there is no digital change here. But the true thing that on iOS, like one picture is full of AI. You have all the machine learning just to see the depth of the picture and combine different image. And like if you read the documentation for like iOS camera, like you can get this quality with a low range of megapixels, and also the pixel phone as well with artificial intelligence that just like enhance your picture. You think that, oh, why my picture is so cool in that phone and not in the different one? Sometimes because they just enhance our face, and like people also have problem because they're like, oh, I see my face in that camera, and I kind of like, okay, that's my real face, but there are like a lot of enhancement as well. And AI is everywhere, okay? And the most simple things we have AI today, and doesn't need to be like all the whole incredible thing that we see today, but we can use those things in simple solutions and web applications, and those things are really accessible. It's simple to use, and we're gonna see today. And yeah, the first time that I like someone talk about that was like, they're like, was the era that to Samuel and other teachers as well that introduced that term. There's like artificial intelligence, a field that gave the computer ability to learn something, and without being explicitly telling me, okay, what is the right and left, but I just throw a bunch of numbers and the computer try to figure out what is we are talking about. And someone know like when that was, like which year they told them? Have a clue? What is the year when AI was spoken for the first time? Any guess?
50 years ago?
Exactly. So that term, it's 1959. It was the first time that they say, oh, we have artificial intelligence now. But what is the difference between 59 and now? Is the capacity that we have to process something.
The range.
The data, like we have the internet, that we can process everything on the internet. And now even our browser has access to a GPU that I can, on my browser, use the GPU of my machine and do some process to learn something, and everything runs in a browser. I don't need like a huge computer. When I did college, a while ago, the process was totally different. I need to have a special machine to process there. I need to only use Python, and the limitations are super high, and the results are like minimal. Like I do a prediction, takes a while to do a prediction. And today, on our browser, on a Chrome browser, I can run a script that will run prediction. And that was the moment when I saw that example, and I was like, oh, that's really triggered me, that's something really cool that runs in a browser. That website is a teachable machine. There we can do a training between two things. I would just label two things and I would do a training. Probably, I don't know if I'll mess up the streaming now, but I will just jump to that example. Don't drop my computer here. I hope so. So let me.
Just make sure the share screen part, is it the whole screen or only the presentation?
Yeah, I will.
You will have to
Yeah.
the share.
Yeah, saying the whole screen, the whole.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So there are a few people. Hi, Leonidas, and that is watching there. If someone is seeing that, please just tell in the comments that I will know what I'm doing here. So, and the typical machine, it's, don't fall computer, it's fine, stay with me. We have a few examples. So we have like image projects, we have audio projects, and you have pose projects. The image project, I can train a basic model to identify different things. And that, when I saw that, was, okay, I can just do on my browser, and I can just train something. I can use the webcam. I will ask the permission for, I'm streaming, so I won't see that because I'll use my camera to the streaming. But what's gonna happen here, I can get on my web camera and hold there, and I will take bunches of image, and I will classify that with a label. I can say, oh, that's Philip, and I can get another person, and...
Sorry, can you check the share screen again?
Yeah.
It's a black screen.
Yeah, I will do it. Let me... Yeah, I think now it's okay, perfect. Yeah, so, and then I can just classify things here, and I can label, for example, Lena, and put Lena here and take some pictures, and we're gonna do a training. And after I do the training process, I will get my model pre-trained, and I can use everywhere. I can just get that code. It's working. Perfect. Yeah, and when I do the training, I can use everywhere. I can just like copy and paste on my like a web project and just use that everywhere. And we're gonna discuss like the benefits of having that on the browser as well. But I will just go back to the presentation. Yeah, so and that was the trigger that I had when I saw, okay, I can just, me as a front-end dev, I'm not like a data scientist. I'm a front-end dev that worked with front-end development for 14 years, and I just could use JavaScript to do that and do a bunch of different things. And that was the time that I have that trigger to just do experiments and try new things. And now we get in that area that everything's influenced by AI. Like it's like when I before we have Google I/O and the Microsoft build, I was like, I would just say everything will be based on AI. Like they were just like talk about AI, like about everything, and that's what we got. And the thing that you need to understand that in that curve, that slide is from Jason, and he just explained that we are just at the beginning of the evolution. We didn't hit the peak yet. We are here in that point. So that point that we are is the best time for you to get the opportunity and learn something, how we can improve our routines, or how we can improve, for example, our workflow. And for example, today I use GitHub Copilot to code, and I just love it because didn't take my job, but for me, it's just like there are, when you're coding, sometimes you have just the boring part. They're like, oh no, organize a huge SVG, or organize a huge data JSON that you need to do quick and small fix. And I just came and do that boring work. I just think about the solution. I was like, okay, how I can sort that thing, or how can remove that string, or how can I can ask things, or also I can start change things, and the AI will see what I'm doing and understand what I'm doing and suggest like, okay, what is the next step? And just see those examples. We just like think about where we can get when we enhance those things and we kind of like chart and use AI in our daily work. And before we talk, even that time when I start to learn, I saw a bunch of terms like artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning. I was like, what the heck is that? And then when I did the first example with JavaScript, I started to look at things that, okay, what is a model? What is like a conversion loss, or what is a loss? And those terms became part of my learning process. I did the other way around, because sometimes when you are in a university or in a school or something, we go for the theory, and then you go to the practical part. But at that moment, I went to the practical part. I just got the things, doing the classification, say, okay, that's cool. But what is behind that technology? I'm not saying like what is right or wrong, but it was just the time that I was like, first I did the example with JavaScript, and then I jumped to, okay, what is the difference between artificial intelligence and machine learning? And artificial intelligence, like the quick definition is the science to make things smart. Right? Everything that's related to that, like when you have a process that you can make some automation to make decision, that's the artificial intelligence. That's like the big umbrella that we have. And machine learning, it's one of that branch that it is the capacity for you pass one task, and the computer you take that task and process that information and be able to do something after that. And that's what happened, for example, when I do a classification, I'm not saying to the computer, oh, that's Fellyph. I just say, that image, I will just label as Fellyph. And doesn't see a person. There is a whole math behind where I will show how kind of like that process works, but there is a whole process to get that image, convert in a small data, and then compare that and do the training, and then like find difference between those two items. And the machine learning, so developers here, who's okay. When you do, for example, the traditional coding process, it's here we have the traditional coding process that we have an email, and then I will just check if the email contain a word, for example, Viagra. And then if I say that, okay, that is a spam. Or if it doesn't contain, it's not a spam. And if I see another word that is like kind of a forbidden word, I will just go and like increment that. I include all the possible scenarios that will be classified as a spam. And on that left side, when the problems start to increase, my code starts to increase as well, because I need to think about all the possible scenarios. And with machine learning, the process is different. I will just get all the emails that are spam. I say, this is a spam, and I got a bunch of emails that's not spam. Just find the difference between those two items. And later on, you're going to be training. You're going to be looking for those examples. And after, I will ask a new email that you've never seen before, and you need to tell me that this is mail, it is a spam or not, and that's the basic process for training. Then I will just asking for things that they didn't see before, and I will also define what is my range of like tolerance, like how much I need to be wrong. And there is like also I can say, oh, when that range it's completed, okay, your train it's finished, so we can use that module and do the classification. And what is the advantage between those two scenarios? The advantage between those two scenarios is if something new appears,
it updates all the time.
Yeah, updates on the time. I kind of will identify a kind of like standard to write a span, not looking for words exactly, but the way I speak or the way that like combining words. And if that model is not work anymore, we can just retrain them, and then we just keep going. It works with WordPress. I think AskMet use that process. They have like a machine learning, they train, and they identify what is spam on. And sometimes when you receive updates, basically you get like a new update for like a new module. But imagine like in a environment that you have, for example, WordPress, and you have 40% of the web, and you do like that, like all the spam words. Imagine the size of the code that is gonna be. And then like the common case that we have with machine learning, like the classic one, it's a object recognition. You can send an image, and then our script to identify what is in that image. The natural language, that's the boom that we have, but there are like different scenarios. Like here's a ChatGPT, but for example, I can have on my browser, I want to find a specific question, like an answer for a specific question. And I can create an extension that, oh, when in that post, I get an answer for what is ChatGPT. And then the natural language will try to find that moment. Other inter-scenario as well, I can block, for example, aggressive communication. So if I have my support channel and I want to kind of like flag someone's like kind of like annoying, I can also identify that scenario as well. So that was the extension that I have mentioned. So I just type like, oh, what is that specific question, and the extension just highlight that. And deep learning, it's kind of like, oh, the next level. It's like when you see like it's the hardcore AI, and basically it's I don't give any information. I don't say what's happened. I just like throw that data, and I ask for the computer to identify like a partner inside that bunch of data. What is relevant or what is not relevant. And then my script you train several times, and you try to find something and kind of like find something that makes sense, and then kind of create that type of scenario that like I just have dots and I just connect the dots and I create an image. There is a really interesting Netflix series that was called, it was a documentary like AlphaGo. I don't know, someone like, I don't know if it's still there, but it's kind of old, but was a team from Google that trained with deep learning a computer to play Chinese chess. And that Chinese chess is just like 10 times more advanced than the normal chess. And at the end of the series, they beat the world champion, like, and because the amount of variations or possibilities are too deep that kind of is hard to train, but they could get the right way to play. And even the computer found a new way to play that game. Because sometimes we as humans, we just, okay, that's a phase. But imagine a game, we just like learn all the books, just say, oh, the way to win is that path. And then the computer just find a new way to win that wasn't like human based, or just, okay, I'll just find my way to win that game. And that was with deep learning. He was like training, playing with other real players, and the script was retrained, and then they got like kind of the model right. And then in the summary, we have that layer. So we have the artificial intelligence, we have machine learning, and kind of like inside the machine learning, we have the deep learning. And that's how the magic works. That was like, okay, but how they see that the cat's a cat, or how the dog is a dog. And in school, I think was like loads of things that are always, I think, I never would use that in my life, was like matrix and sine, cosine, and then I use a lot. Matrix for AI, it's kind of the source that get an image, kind of convert those kind of squares, dots, and data, and then use that data to classify that image. Because imagine you send all the pixels to a database. You have an image that's like 2,000 pixels by 1,200 pixels. We're going to have millions of pixels. Imagine for you compare millions of results every single time. And it's impossible. And for that, we kind of like condense that image in a level that I can store in numbers. And at the end, for example, ChatGPT, when you think that the text makes sense for you, that's what ChatGPT sees. They just see like a big matrix. And those codes are different than an image. Those numbers will be words. And you just like put together like numbers and say, okay, that's how, that's an intro about artificial intelligence that ChatGPT sees in that way. And then was like, that was my kind of like my first like process that I try to, okay, to see those things working, like get the end-to-end. On the beginning, I just knew that, for example, those numbers are right and left, and I start to send to my model to train that information, just those 6 numbers, and then later I ask for a new number, and based on that training process, they will predict a result. I think I will show a video, But the process to train will run several times, and then once I have the result and pass a new number, my machine learning model will say, oh, I'm 9% sure that this is a right size. And that's a trick situation about text as well, because the text sometimes is never 100% true. Like when you do some ChatGPT, it's just like, it's 99%, but if you change one word, they can be like a big problem. And that's why you need to always review that content, because machine learning works with probability, and that's really hard to get 100% right. Okay, but we got here. Everything is easier, understand, and then quick test. Let's train now. Let's make our model here. How can we identify the difference between a dog and a mop? I need data. Let's go. Help me.
The tone.
The tone. Okay, good one. I don't know. What?
Correlation between the eyes and the nose and something.
Yeah, the correlation.
The circles, the triangles.
Yeah, the triangle between the eyes and the. Yeah, perfect. Guys, I need help. One feature.
I would say that the mop is on the floor, but a dog could be on the floor too.
Yeah.
The mop has a stick.
The mop has a stick. It's a good one. I'll just come
It
back
doesn't
here.
have ears.
It
It doesn't have ears.
doesn't have ears. Yeah. Yeah. Can be the color of the dog.
There are two items that connect to each other, so it makes a difference that this is something different from the other picture, which is a dog.
Yeah. And then with that information, we have our model. Let's run our model now. And now. Was quite good. Sometimes some people say, oh, the hair, and then the hair is like, oh, definitely the hair is not. But yeah, we got it right. They stick. That was that will be the tricky one, because that one I'll just use the mouse for people at the stream seeing that, but I'm not finding a mouse here. But there is a dog with a stick, and if you compare that, oh, a stick, okay, it's a dog. A dog close to a stick. And yeah, standing. The mob can be standing as well, kind of like this one looks like that is standing. But that is a trick thing, and also it's an important thing that needs supervision. It's not something that runs like by itself, and that will be okay. Like the ChatGPT will take our jobs, and no, needs supervision, needs to be trained. And also there are really important area that is the bias. You need to have someone to control the bias, to control the data, to control if are you using the right data, are you using the right information, and that's a scenario, and that you just get one simple data and you just look, okay, everything looks clear. I would just look for a stick, and if it doesn't have a stick, it's fine. It's not a dog, but you can get those trick situations as well. And yeah, that was an example from a friend that I really liked. She was showing. Her name is Bianca. She's one of those head of AI that take care of bias, and she'll just show you this example that the year that has a Nicolas Cage movie and the numbers of death of drowning in a swimming pool. And
The comparison is
yeah. And people create a whole study to prove the correlations between those two data. And that, people are making theses of that when the Nicolas Cage release a movie, the amounts of deaths will be higher for drawing. And then later people said, no, when the movie is good or when the movie is bad, also has a correlation. But the important thing here is also we need to find the right data to compare. We need to say, oh, that makes sense or not, because sometimes we got, especially nowadays, like everyone like just showing, oh, I just discovered that secret, the secret of humanity, and just compare those two random data, and then we just get in a loop discussing that. But those information make sense, right? Definitely not. But like there are people that like keep like trying to prove that has some correlations between that. But just one thing for we just understand, like also we need the bias, we need the right information, we need to look for the right data as well, and that's an important thing. And okay, but like how can I start to do that? How can I do my first example? For me, the try was TensorFlow. Once I finish the live stream here, we can use the camera and we can do a test and we can see the code. And probably can be another day that like I have also a workshop that we go on the code, use the camera, use the classification. Can be another meetup. I just came here again. I don't have promised to come to Athens.
How many days are you staying?
Yeah, yeah. I would say until Sunday here, but I can come back anytime. Okay. Like, so the process that we talked about before. So we have also TensorFlow in different places. It's something that we need to check that TensorFlow it's written first in Python, and then they just transform in a JavaScript library. But that was possible because of the GPU, that we can use the GPU to process that. And now there was one thing that I announced the Google I/O, that the Chrome browser has a new GPU API that make like 3 times faster the time to process that information as well. And after, we need to understand that there are like places that I can put my model. I can run in a browser if there is a specific scenario, or I can put in a server. The difference is if it's something that is simple that I need to process, I can do it on my browser. The advantage for that, I will gain privacy, because I'm not sending that information to the server. For example, that training that I did with the camera, everything was in my browser. Didn't went to a server. I'm not sending my pictures from a server to train. But sometimes we need more capacity to process information, and then we need to send the information to a server. Or, for example, we have a large model. For example, ChatGPT needs like a specific case to process, so we send that information to the server, and the server returns the right information. And then was the right and left was the day that I was like trying to play. I was like only with JavaScript. I just hold one key and say, when I click that, it's right. When I hold the R key, that's right. And then when I hold the L key, that was the left. And I just send that data to my model. And once I finish that, I ask to do the training. And when the training runs, then I get the position of my mouse. And you can see that you say, oh, I'm 50% sure that's like right. And then the precision is starting getting like higher when you go further that center. And that can be applied for any case. For example, I can compare, let's say a car, and I can get the kilometers of a car and the price of the car, kind of like use that data to, for example, what's the best car to buy? Like, for example, when I use the kilometers, the year, the model, and the cost, and then I can use different layers and try to find some correlation between them. But in that position, I just use like the X position, like just one value to say, oh, this is right, this is left, but I can use more than one variable for that. And yeah, that was a really simple example, but for example, we can do things like that. We can use a model to identify my position and do, for example, a fitness class. So for example, I can see that, for example, the users like doing the squats, and I can count there, and I can also check the time that the person was doing the squats, and then I can give a score, like based on which score it is, like what is the best thing to evaluate a squad. Like, is the time that the person move, the time that the person stay holding, and then I can use that data to do a score for those movements. The other case that we can apply that I have mentioned before, this is like kind of a support that if the person tried to say something wrong, this is a stupid question, and then you can already block that like a kind of harm comment on the browser. I don't need to send to my server like stupid information. I can block on my browser and say, okay, that's enough. Like, if you want to solve your problem, or if you want to send something useful, just like I can have a first layer of validation on my browser. And there are like other crazy things. For example, I can track my face, connect with a 3D module, and do that connection between those two items. This year, they created kind of like update as well. They got the TensorFlow, and they create a library that is like MediaPipe that have more specific scenarios. For example, can identify hands. I can identify signs. Like, for example, one thing that I saw at the WWDC yesterday that they put on the video conference when people do that, like 2 hands, and then like came like hearts, or when the people do that, like in a video call. And those type of things you can do with TensorFlow in your browser. You can get your camera, identify that the people are doing like thumbs up, and you do something like send a text or send a reaction. And yeah, there are more examples. For example, that's an application that helps you to find your outfit. You can just put your height and stay in front of the camera, and then the model will process and tell, oh, your size is large or medium. And now it's time to code. I'll just show a little bit of code. First, the training process. There was a train that I did behind, like way back to the Thessaloniki. You can see that that's Thessaloniki here. That was the time that I did that video. And then I just create a video to identify that I'm happy or sad. And I would just like send labels like, oh, I'm sad now. And then I would just send data that I'm happy. And then I ask for a train. And here on the console, you're going to see the process. That number is the loss. So the loss is the range of tolerance that, for example, the script you run the train, and I can say, oh, you can get like 1% wrong. It's fine. And then later, when the train is completed, I just like show my face and then like ask what is So, and here's basically the process to do the training. First, I need to connect with my camera, and then I need to get my image output that moment and send to the classifier, and also send the labels for that classifier, and then ask for the training runs there. Once I have that training run, I can use that module on my website. I think I have one. So that is the code, for example, the setup buttons that I just create a button to classify what is happy and sad. But I just want to, yeah, that was another example that I did. Once I have that trained, for example, I did with books, for example. I use one model and train different books. And then the example was when I show one specific book, I just identify that book, and I can point to the buying that book. So if, I don't know, like I have one book that I don't know what is the title of that book, I can just show. And as you can see in that video on the bottom, there's like the buying button keeps appear because, oh, that's that book, and I have the link here. And that was an example that I did, basically following that process to train and then use the module, and later on just use that module in different scenarios, like for example, in e-commerce. And for that, if you're really interested to do like more like trainings over TensorFlow, there is this course that is like 0 to Hero from Jason Mayers. That's the address, Google-learn Tensorflow.js, TF.js. I think now the course has like 30 videos or 40 videos. And I think that's it. Obrigado. Evaristo?